I think visual aids is the biggest key factor in making a connection with them, because sometimes when you translate everything word for word, it's very literal. So there's a lot of visual aids that we use, and picture books and things like that they are familiar with. Stories that they are familiar with in their own language. So stories like Little Red Riding Hood and things like that, that's international, that everybody knows the story. Those are like the very important visual aids that you need to know in order for us to make a connection with the student.
So the biggest strategy recently is an intentional use of visuals in pre-reading activities to build vocabulary development, and that's something that I studied more in depth during the reading symposium last August. It's very pertinent because then I came back to Albuquerque and became part of a science of reading group at our school that the state is implementing. And so it was timely. I then did a training for our teachers a few weeks ago, and I have volunteer teachers who are doing intentional use of visuals throughout the different core curriculums and giving us feedback, giving feedback to their PLCs. So that's been on our minds and in our practice.
Strategies that will create access without singling anyone out. So strategies that feel inclusive to the entire classroom. One of my favorites is the interactive word wall. Sometimes students tend to choose the same adjectives, for example, when they're writing. They tend to use happy or sad or, said. And an interactive word wall will actually have those big words, but they are synonyms within a little envelope inside. So students can go right up and choose a different word that says the same thing they want. So it's a really great way of creating that trusting environment, again, for students to have access to different vocabulary words and academically grow.
Definitely visuals. So I always try to bring in images that will always have students have something to say about them. So nothing that is high pressure. So it could be a connection for all students, and that's how I start every class with, so they have something to talk about.
So definitely with my newcomers, the more visual I can make it, the better. So a lot of times when I was in the classroom, all of my slides, I usually like to start with some sort of a background building, and it was very much a very bright, engaging photo that really did spark some interest, and we kind of used that as a way of predicting what we were going to talk about. It was a way for us to kind of build some background, build up some of that vocabulary we were going to use, and then from that I was able to see a lot more engagement with the text because they were kind of making those connections real time to that image.
When I think about strategies, something that comes to mind that to me has been such a big support for my students would be visuals. Visuals just make such a huge difference in the comprehensible input. Another strategy that I think is just body language. It's really kind of like a common sense thing, like just pointing to things, making hand signals, those types of inputs. So, did you want to add some strategies too?
One of our favorite strategies is when we can take a walk with students in the school or nearby the school and show them different vocabulary that they maybe haven't encountered in the classroom. One of our classrooms at a school I work in is a kitchen, and I get to show them vocabulary like sink or refrigerator. And this is not something they see in the classroom normally. So it's vocabulary we get to introduce them to, and then they can repeat back to us and start to include that in speaking.
So my students specifically, they need visuals, they need hands-on, they need modeling. So that has been my tool. If I want them to demonstrate their understanding, I have to provide what I'm expecting of them first. I also ask if they have heard of the word that we're addressing. And if they haven't, I ask them, do you know what this word is in your home language? And if they don't, then I let them know, because I think it's important for them to understand both the English and Spanish of it. Even though they are multilingual learners, there is some breakage in their ability for vocabulary, either in English or Spanish, and when they're trying to transition between the two, code switch, I should say.
Yes, I think one of the strategies, and it's not really a strategy, but it's just making sure that I'm always modeling the language, modeling the process, modeling the thinking, because with newcomers, sometimes it's important for us as language teachers to be that model, to be that linguistic example of what students can accomplish or what they should be doing. So in most of my lessons, so working with other teachers, I try to emphasize that we need to be models of language. We need to demonstrate how the thinking process happens. How do we increase our reading abilities? How do we read a book? How do we try to summarize? If we model for students, they'll be able to catch up and quickly start doing it on their own. And obviously at the beginning, it needs to be very scaffolded. If we're teaching reading, if we're teaching literacy, math, basically any subject or any content, there always has to be a modeling phase. That way they know what's coming or what they're expected to be doing.
Okay. Well, I have recently switched from pulling out ML students to co-teaching, and what I've noticed is that oftentimes the students are hesitant to speak in front of a whole classroom, especially because they're newcomers or they're new to the country, and speaking English as an additional language, it adds just a new level of anxiety. So what I've noticed is some are hesitant to speak in front of the classroom. And to help overcome this issue is that we often create what we call at our school thinking maps, which is basically a visual representation of the information that we want them to share. And with the thinking map, we add lots of visuals, we add sentence frames, we practice, and we do what we call turn and talk. We model it first, we say it together, and then we ask the students to share with a partner. And then if they choose, they can share in front of the classroom. But they always have to share. That's part of the having high expectation. They do have to share. They don't have to do it in front of the whole classroom, but they can even whisper it to themselves, or they can share to a partner, to a friend. So that's one of the ways that we have implemented in my instructional practice, and it has been successful.
Wow, so with newcomers, it's really getting to know what assets they're already bringing, what strengths they have, because they might already come in with such rich vocabulary from their home language. So it's really just tapping into what they already know and working towards now just bridging that language gap to help them.
I would say there's not just one or a couple of strategies. It depends on what the newcomers need. But one thing I always start with is the can-dos. I have the newcomers build their can-do portrait in their language, but then I also attach it with an empathy interview, which kind of talks about what the can-dos do, like the interests that these students have, but also who's in their family, what would they like to do when they grow up, how do they learn best, what are they bringing to the tables, and then I share it with the teachers. So the can-do definitely I start with, and also like how can I take the functionality, the functional approach of language and take it into the content areas. A lot of times what I do is I have students share even in their own language, even if they can write or say something, even if I don't understand, and I try to capture it, and then I build it up and connect it with maybe one of the vocabulary. So making sure I'm using the L1 and the prior knowledge of the students. I would say these are two consistently. It does not matter whether kindergarten or 5th grade. Those are the two consistent apart from the others that I use.
My biggest tool that I use for my newcomers is like embrace their culture and validate their language and all that they bring to their table. It's not just the language, but also the personality and the family engagement and all the fun stuff that they can bring. It makes like the classroom more like a safe place for them.
I would say constantly reminding myself that no child shows up empty-handed, right? And that they want to participate and they want to share themselves. And I think that if language is the challenge, it's what can I do to put that language in their mouth or in front of them to be able to use it to share themselves and what they have to say. And so I think just being incredibly intentional with structuring academic discourse opportunities for students to engage with one another and learn from one another.
Definitely using GLAD strategies. My ML mentor used them a lot in my classroom. We do a lot of co-teaching when I was a classroom teacher, and so I've taken everything I've learned from the power of co-planning, co-teaching, working for the students with the common goals, and implementing strategies has made my work with multilingual students more fun and inspiring to them.
I think collaborating with other teachers across the district. So as a brand new teacher, I feel like connecting with older teachers or veteran teachers has really made a really big difference in helping me connect with my students by utilizing the resources that they have.
Before we get to any academic strategies, I feel like connection with families. So we have ways to contact parents. We have interpreters, other teachers who speak the language that the students speak. But I really feel if you reach out to make a connection, families are so grateful and they will bend over backwards to help you. Academic strategies to help them, scaffolding to their level, pre-teaching vocabulary, etc. for what they want to do, any additional extra time that you can spend with them. I think graphic organizers are very important as well, and those are the things that I think are the most important parts. But again, connection is really key.
You know, having the SIOP model, using that with the WIDA standards, just learning the different ways and the most effective ways to differentiate with the strategy so you can get to their level and just be able to inch them along, move them along a little bit piece by piece while giving them access to the core content.
I work specifically with high school kids and I teach newcomers. And the biggest tool or strategy that I've used is the WIDA ELD framework. It's helped me guide myself on what students are able to do and what's expected at them at their grade level. And it's helped me be able to keep my content rigorous while yet accessible and appropriate for level 1s newcomers.
So I do use a lot of different strategies and tools. I think one of the things that makes me a happy teacher, and I'd like to say successful teacher, is that I don't do the same thing exactly every year. I'm always looking for special things to do to make connections with the students that I have and the curriculum that we have to cover. So I look for teachable moments. I am open to trying new things or doing new things, and I think that that's been something that makes me maybe stand apart from what some other teachers are doing in their classrooms. I like to take advantage of local resources, like last year. I won't do this every year, but last year I was able to take students to the local professional baseball field near where our school is, which was actually Fenway Park in Boston. And we had a special tour, and I think that the kids will always remember that particular field trip because of the opportunities we had to make that trip. But I'm looking for those kind of opportunities every year, and it's different every year. But I hope other teachers maybe are inspired by those thoughts in their contexts to take advantage of teachable moments and try to connect interesting things that are going on in your region and area to what you have to do in the classroom.